Okay, I got the recording started. Let me double check and see if there was any other agenda stuff. So I think the main thing is just continuing on the remaining stuff for 1.10. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody added anything to the meeting notes for this week. So I talked to was it Adelina and Claudio earlier today. So we've got some good progress on the testing effort. So I want to make sure that we leave some time for that. Hey, Michael.
Hey guys.
I just started the recording a second ago. So we've got a testing update, and we wanted to get some opinions on things before we take them to SIG testing.
No problem. Cool.
Did you have any other agenda stuff for today?
No, it looks like a lot of the PRs that we had got merged last week, so that was good to kind of see that progress moving along, including some of our documentation updates. So I was glad that both the PR by Aline and as well as the PR on CRI went in. So that was great. A lot of fluid of activity. And on that, I don't have any specific update.
Okay. So one thing related to Aline's plugin was I think we may still need to update the docs around that. I've been looking at two different sets of documentation, one for Azure and one for this. Does the public docs use NSSM to launch the kubelet today?
No.
Okay. Do we want to recommend that as the default for 1.10?
No, I would go for the service creation. So SE.exe and give an example. I don't know if we should put it into the standard Windows deployment. I mean, starting guide or somewhere else.
Okay. I'm just double checking what's there right now. So Windows host setup.
There's nothing about that over there.
Yeah, that looks like the Windows setup guide still has the start kubelet.ps1.
So should we update it in the starting guide for Windows?
Yeah, I think so. That's probably going to be the best option there.
Can we add another entry for the Windows node? I don't know, advanced config or something? That would be another option. So basically have another, so starting guide is one thing. So just to enable your Windows node to communicate with Kubernetes and so on. And another one, which is more specific if you want to run services, interrogate services, query the API server to see if you're there or not. Does that make any sense?
Sorry, I think I missed the first part of that.
So the idea is we have a starting guide, which is okay. So basically, you have a node from 0 to hero. So you get the kubelet up and running, so on and so forth. I was wondering if we could add another documentation link, which is referenced by the starting guide, and another which should point to, I don't know, advanced configuration options and troubleshooting guide. For example, how to interrogate your kubelet to see if it's up and running, services.
I think we could still add it to the same document. So I was just looking back over it. So at the end, we have a list of next steps and resources. And so I think that, and then there's a link to troubleshooting and common problems. So I think that we could still add something at the end of it under the heading of automatically starting the kubelet and kube proxy after reboot.
My only problem with this one is the document will be a bit bloated, so it will be a bit longer than, I don't know, normal people will like to read this. This is more of a nitpicking, but I don't know.
Well, I suppose the other alternative is we could just update the start kubelet script to actually register the service.
I would go with the documentation on that, because maybe different people want to, I don't know, add a dependency to Docker, for example, put in different start flags and so on.
Okay. Did you have any opinion, Robert, since you're the last one that was updating the doc?
Not really. I mean, I can see going either way with that, of like start kubelet doing that, or I think I would probably want to maintain the current behavior for start kubelet.
Okay. Even though it doesn't survive a reboot?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we would want to set that as like a deprecated method of, you know, if you want to keep things simple and not worry about Windows services, but I can't see much use case for continuing using that.
But you're talking about using the script, right?
Yeah, using the script to just start it.
Okay. Well, why don't I take this as a follow-up? I want to talk to David and the other people that wrote that script, because it does appear to be pulling down some additional config information. And so I'll see if they want to see if there's any corner cases that we would miss if we just update the script to register the service instead.
Doesn't hurt to create a install service script and just include it in the repo for now.
Oh, that's true.
My problem with just having a script which registers the service is you get some defaults value, which the user, I don't know if he checks them or not. That's my only issue with the startup script that registers the service. That's why I would rather go the documentation route, in which you explain that you can make a service dependent on another service, put in 3 types of restart configurations, the timing in between, and so on.
Okay.
But we can add documentation to the starting guide section, I think, and we see where we go from there. I don't know, maybe move it to another page or not. We can see that in the future. The only problem would be if we update the documentation. I think there was the GA for the documentation already for 1.10.
I'm pretty sure that if we need to make a docs update, I don't think that the GA date will matter. I mean, we've updated documentation out of band, and Robert has done that. So
Yeah. I mean,
that's not a problem.
Okay.
I think that the docs, like changes to the docs, like I think that we only need to put extra thought into it if it needs to be tied to a release, but like we can go either way.
Well, in this case, we need to tie it to the 1.10 because it has that functionality.
Yep.
Yeah, but the 1.10 release is coming up pretty soon. So I think maybe what we should do is go ahead and give it another try and like start a draft, and then we can make a decision next week, because if we start a PR next week, then it'll get published after 1.10 anyway.
Well, we could probably do a PR this week and see if it gets in. I mean, either way works.
Okay. So did you write that PR that PR, or do you want one of us to do it?
We could add it. It's
Okay.
not a big. I mean, it's part of the commit message anyway, but I don't think somebody will look at the commit message on how to create the service.
Okay. All right. So I guess let's move on from there.
Okay.
If I can find the right Trello board. Did you have any updates, David, related to the CNI plugins? Was there anything that needs to get in as part of 1.10, or Dinesh?
Nothing from my end, no.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess let's move on to the testing. So did you want to cover that, Adelina?
Yeah. Just a second. My microphone wasn't working. Okay. So we are in an effort to have end-to-end tests running on Kubernetes clusters with Windows nodes. For that, several changes need to be made into the tests themselves, and some tests. New images for Windows need to be generated, images that the tests themselves would use. And there's quite a considerable work to be done in kubetest. As you know, that's the tool they use to spawn clusters and test them, where we intend to add ACS support so we can spawn clusters on Azure. Now, the point is that we have quite an overview and some good progress on all the bits and pieces. And we basically want to go to SIG testing and present all this effort. So basically we know from them how they want to proceed, if they have suggestions and stuff like that. We want to ask for some time on their next meetings. Obviously, for this effort, we want support from SIG Windows, if we need support from SIG Windows. And so if any one of you would like to join us when we propose that meeting to SIG testing, that would be great. Because there are probably going to be questions about how does Kubernetes work and all that thing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely include me, and I don't know, Patrick, do you want to come in as well? So we can definitely be at that meeting and kind of communicate both the importance of these tests and, as the community is rallying behind Windows and you're getting more and more users. I mean, there's tremendous need for this type of testing. So we can definitely provide the business value behind this and kind of help articulate our goals here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there, and I'm going to see if I can get some people from the Azure team to join as well, because some of this topic does cross over into testing on Azure versus GKE, because we want to be running tests in both places, but we're bringing up the Windows tests on Azure first, because that's where we have the resources.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so basically, I'm going to talk to the SIG testing on Slack, and I'm going to ping you guys for this. Add you to the discussion. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. And then I just realized I forgot to share the test results from last week. So I'll go ahead and add those into last week's notes. So I'll get that in there. So I think that's all we had for, or all that I had on my list for today. Did you have anything, Michael?
No, nothing else. Thank you for starting the meeting. Sorry I was late.
Oh, no problem.
All right. I guess that's it.
Just 1 second. I have a question for you guys, if I may.
Sure.
It's regarding Symlinks. Maybe you have some opinions, some ideas. I've been having an issue running some tests. Basically, the tests basically require to mount some volumes inside of Windows containers, and basically read from some files inside of them, some metadata files inside of them, like annotations, CPU info, memory info, so on and so forth. The issue is that even though the volumes are properly mounted, the symlinks do not work properly inside the containers. One way we found to make it work would be to create the symlinks with the full path which is to be expected to be inside the container. And basically that would mean that the symlinks would probably work for the container, but will no longer work properly outside of it, because they are currently made with relative paths, you know. So do you have any ideas on this?
Claudia, I think there was somebody working on it a long time ago, but the issue there is you can only have a hard link which is shared between the host and the container, not a symlink. I don't know if that can solve your issue or not.
So maybe you know this, Michael. I know that sometime last year there was someone from Apprenda that was working on, I think they were doing either hard links or copies to work around this problem. Do you have any history there?
Yeah, so G2 had tried to basically do a copy, which would not be an atomic reaction. And you know, the results were not promising, so that didn't really work very well. I believe that when we did the non-atomic operation, you basically either you get failure or we get downtime, and it wasn't really a viable solution. So we basically scratched that, and we're waiting for, you know, the Windows support to come in before we can actually call that the official solution.
Okay. So I guess the next step here is I'm working on looking at the current Windows Server Insider build. I believe it's 17101 is the build number. I know that over here at Microsoft, we've been making some changes to better support symlinks and containers. So I'll see if I can get a recommended build to test. Because I know there were some bug fixes in either January or February. So I'll see if they're in that build. And then we can see if that resolves the issue or not. And then if not, I'll have to take it back to the Windows engineering and see what I can get done for relative symlinks. As far as absolute symlinks, actually, let me get a clarification here. Is this a relative symlink to a directory or a relative symlink to a file?
It's a relative symlink to a directory, and files themselves are relative symlinks to that symlink directory.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I can probably post an example, if I may, in a few seconds.
but that file is still within that directory. It's not in a parent directory on the host, right?
Sorry?
Yeah, if you could post a sample, that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. Just a few seconds.
Michael, I remember that talk that hard link were working. Why didn't it become a hard link between the container and the host? Do you remember?
I don't remember that. Bob, do you have any idea? Do you remember that discussion or that option?
Not really. I am looking at the Docker issue. I can push that, which has a long explanation I haven't gone through during this meeting.
Yeah, Aline, my memory fails me on on that. I don't remember.
But there, I just posted this in the chat. There's a link to the Docker issue.
Okay. Yeah, the issue 52419 seems to be tracking it. So I'll take another look and see if that build's viable, or if it's going to need a newer one. So anyway, I'll look into the details on that and then share an update on the Slack channel then.
Oh, Taylor replied on this too. Okay. All right. That's it then. Patrick, if you can email me the video, that way I can upload it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you guys next week. Sorry I was late. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.